widowed millionaire was walking with his daughter when she screams, "Daddy, look, it's Mommy." Then he freezes. Michael Thompson felt his world collapse when he heard the piercing scream of his 5-year-old daughter. They were walking down the bustling Broadway in New York City on yet another Saturday afternoon that he tried to fill with activities to distract both himself and little Emma from the absence that had haunted them for 2 years. "Daddy, look! It's Mommy!" Emma shouted, letting go of his hand and running toward a woman carrying plastic bags full of cans. The 42-year-old businessman froze in the middle of the sidewalk, feeling his legs go weak. His heart raced in a way it hadn't since that terrible morning when he received the news that Jennifer had disappeared in the bridge collapse in rural Pennsylvania. The woman ahead of them had the same wavy brown hair, the same posture, the same delicate way of moving. "Emma, come back here," he called, but his voice came out shaky and weak. The woman turned at the sound of the child running toward her, and when her eyes met Michael's, she let the bags drop to the ground. Soda cans and plastic bottles scattered across the pavement, rolling in every direction. Her lips parted in shock, and she brought her hands to her chest, as if she couldn't breathe. "Michael?" Jennifer whispered, her voice thick with an emotion he couldn't decipher. The world around them seemed to stop. Pedestrians hurried past, buses honked in the heavy traffic, street vendors shouted their offers, but everything became a distant, muffled noise. Michael felt as if he were in a dream, or perhaps a nightmare he couldn't wake from. "Mommy!" Emma threw herself into Jennifer's arms, and Jennifer instinctively hugged her, tears beginning to stream down her face. "My princess," Jennifer murmured, holding her daughter tightly. "You've grown so much." Michael took a step forward, then another, his eyes fixed on the face of the woman he had mourned for 2 years. She looked thinner, with tired marks around her. Eyes and her clothes were plain and worn. The hands that had once been soft and cared for now showed calluses and small cuts. You're alive," he managed to say finally, his voice breaking on the last word. "I can explain," Jennifer replied quickly, still holding Emma, but her eyes showed fear. "It's not what you think." "What I think?" Michael's voice began to rise, drawing curious glances from passers-by. "I think you're alive when I've mourned you every day for the last 2 years. I think you let our daughter believe her mother was gone forever." Emma looked back, and forth between them in confusion, her little brown eyes filled with tears. "Daddy, why are you yelling at Mommy? She came back just like you said she would." The child's innocent words hit Michael like a punch to the gut. He had spent months making up stories about how Mommy was in heaven watching over them, how she would come back when she could. Anything to ease the little girl's pain. "Jennifer, we need to talk." "Now," he said, trying to control the anger and confusion warring inside him. "I know," she replied, wiping tears from her face. "But not here. Not in front of Emma." They headed to a nearby cafe, Jennifer, carrying the bag she had managed to gather, and Emma skipping excitedly between them, thrilled to have both parents together again. The contrast between the child's joy and the tension in the air was heartbreaking. At the cafe, while Emma played with a drawing the waiter had given her, Michael and Jennifer sat across from each other. Silence stretched for long minutes, broken only by the clinking of cups and the chatter of other customers. "Explain," Michael finally said, his voice low but firm. Jennifer took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly as she held the coffee cup. "That day when the bridge collapsed, I was on the bus, as you know," she began. "But I managed to get out before it fell into the river. I got hurt, hit my head, and when I woke up in the regional hospital, I didn't remember anything." "Amnesia?" Michael asked, skepticism clear in his voice. "Complete. I didn't know my name, where I lived, if I had a family. The doctors said it was common with severe head trauma," Jennifer continued, her words speeding up. "They tried to identify me, but my bag was lost in the accident and I had no ID." "But your name was on the passenger list," Michael protested. "It was, and that's why they listed me as missing, presumed not to have survived," she said softly. "The bus sank, Michael. They found some bodies, but others were never recovered. I was among the missing." Emma looked up from her drawing and smiled at her parents. "Daddy, can I show Mommy my picture?" "Of course, sweetheart," Michael answered automatically, still processing Jennifer's words. The little girl ran to Jennifer with a paper full of colorful scribbles. "Look, Mommy, it's our family," Emma said, pointing at 3 stick figures. "This is Daddy, this is me, and this is you. Daddy said you were very far away, but that one day you'd come back." Jennifer looked at the drawing and fresh tears welled in her eyes. She hugged Emma tightly. "It's beautiful, my love, the prettiest I've ever seen." When Emma returned to her table, Michael pressed on. "Okay, you lost your memory. But when did it come back? When did you remember us?" "Little by little over the last 6 months," Jennifer admitted. "Fragments started returning, images, feelings. Your face, Emma's face, our home." "6 months?" Michael's voice rose again. "You've remembered us for 6 months and didn't reach out." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us as we're just starting out. Now, back to the story. Jennifer lowered her eyes, her answer slow in coming. "I tried. I went to our street several times, but when I saw you with Emma, how well you were doing, how happy she was, I thought maybe it was better to leave things as they were." "Better?" Michael couldn't believe what he was hearing. "Better for who? Do you have any idea what it was like for me, raising our daughter alone, explaining to her why Mommy wasn't coming home?" "I know it's hard to understand," Jennifer said, her hands now visibly shaking. "But look at me, Michael. Look at how I am. I have no home, no steady job, no money. I survive by collecting recyclables. What could I possibly offer? You? You could have offered the truth," he shot back. "You could have given your daughter the chance to have her mother back." "And what if I left again?" Jennifer asked, her voice breaking. "What if my memory failed me again? What if I couldn't adjust to the life we had? Emma already suffered once from my absence. I didn't want her to go through that again." Jennifer's twisted logic only made Michael angrier. He stood abruptly, making the cup rattle. "You had no right to make that decision alone," he said. "No right to decide what was best for our family without even consulting us." Emma noticed the tension and ran to them again. "Why are you fighting?" she asked, her eyes filling with tears. "I want you to like each other again." The child's innocence momentarily shattered the wall of anger Michael had built. He crouched down beside his daughter. "Daddy and Mommy are just talking about important things, Princess. Sometimes grown-ups need to work things out." "But can Mommy come home with us now?" Emma asked hopefully. Michael looked at Jennifer, who averted her gaze. That simple question carried a heavy weight, and he didn't know how to answer. We still need to talk more about that," he finally said. "Please, Daddy," Emma insisted. "I missed Mommy so much. All the girls at school have their Mommy and Daddy at home." His daughter's words cut through Michael's heart. He had tried to be both father and mother, but he always knew something was missing in Emma's life. The school events where she was the only child without a mother present, the nights she cried asking for Mommy to come back, the times she wondered if she'd done something wrong to make her mother leave. "Emma, why don't you go play over there while Daddy and Mommy finish talking?" Jennifer suggested gently. The little girl reluctantly agreed and walked away, but kept glancing back at them every few seconds. "Michael, I know I made a mistake," Jennifer said when they were alone. Again. "I know I should have reached out as soon as I started remembering, but I was so scared." "Scared of what?" he asked, still standing with his arms crossed. "Scared you'd reject me, scared you'd moved on, maybe found someone new, scared Emma wouldn't recognize me or want a mother who abandoned her." "You didn't abandon us," Michael said, his voice softening slightly. "At least not on purpose. But pretending you didn't exist, that was abandonment." "I know," Jennifer admitted, tears now streaming freely. "And I know I can't just come back and act like nothing happened. But Michael, I love you. I love you both more than my own life. The only reason I stayed away was because I thought it was best for you." Michael sat back down, running his hands through his hair in frustration. 2 years, Jennifer. 2 years of our daughter's life you missed. 2 years where I had to be strong every single day, where I couldn't break down because she needed me. Do you have any idea how many times I wanted to give up?" "I can imagine," she said softly. "And I'm sorry. I'm sorry for all the pain I caused. for all the nights you went to bed missing me, for all the important moments I lost." "So sorry doesn't bring back the time we lost," Michael replied, but his voice had lost its initial anger and now carried more sadness than fury. "I know it doesn't, but maybe we could try to build new moments," Jennifer suggested, hesitantly. "It's not that simple," Michael shook his head. "I can't just pretend nothing happened. I can't pretend I didn't spend 2 years rebuilding my life, rebuilding Emma's life. You can't just show up and expect everything to go back to normal." "I don't expect that," Jennifer said quickly. "I know things have changed. I know I've changed, that you've changed, that Emma grew up without me. I'm not asking for things to go back to how they were. I'm just asking for a chance to be part of your lives again." Emma came running back to the table, interrupting the conversation. "Mommy, can you take me to school on Monday?" she asked excitedly. "I want to show Mrs. Sarah that my mommy's back." The innocent request created a heavy silence between Michael and Jennifer. How do you explain to a 5-year-old that things weren't that simple? "Emma, Mommy and Daddy are still talking about that," Michael said carefully. "She might not be able to go on Monday." "But why?" Emma asked, confused. "She's here now." "Because Mommy needs to sort some things out first," Michael tried to explain. "What kind of things?" the little girl insisted. Jennifer crouched down to Emma's level. "Remember how sometimes you need to clean your room before you can play with new toys?" she asked. "Mommy needs to tidy up some things in her life before she can play with you every day again." "But can you sleep at home tonight?" Emma asked hopefully. Michael and Jennifer exchanged glances. It was a question neither of them was prepared to answer. "Emma, how about we go to the park now?" Michael suggested, trying to change the subject. "You can show Mommy how you learn to balance on the seesaw." The little girl clapped excitedly, and they left the cafe heading toward Central Park, just a few blocks away. Along the way, Emma chattered non-stop, telling Jennifer about school, her friends, and the dog Daddy had promised she could have when she was older. Jennifer listened attentively, asking questions and showing genuine interest. Michael watched their interaction, feeling a confusing mix of relief, anger, and a deep longing he had tried to bury over the past 2 years. At the park, while Emma played on the slide, Michael and Jennifer sat on a nearby bench. "She's gotten so big," Jennifer remarked, watching their daughter play. "And so smart. You've done an amazing job raising her alone." "It wasn't easy," Michael admitted. "Especially at first. She asked about you every day. I didn't know what to say." "How did you explain what happened to me?" "At first I told her you had traveled somewhere far away and we didn't know when you'd be back," he said. "When she got older, I said you had gotten very sick and gone to heaven to take care of the angels, but that you still watched over us from there." Jennifer closed her eyes, absorbing the weight of those words. Did she believe it? For a while. But lately she started asking more questions. Questions I didn't know how to answer without making up more lies. "Daddy, Mommy, come watch me," Emma shouted from the top of the slide. They walked over and watched Emma go down several times, always asking them to watch. For a few moments it seemed like a normal family spending an afternoon at the park, but the unresolved tension hung between Michael and Jennifer like a dark cloud. "What did you do all those years?" Michael asked when they sat down again. "How did you survive?" "At first I was in a psychiatric hospital in the countryside," Jennifer explained. "They didn't know what to do with me, so they transferred me to a home for people with mental health issues. When I started getting better, I was able to leave and found work on a farm." "And when did your memory come back?" "Gradually. First it was just flashes, images that didn't make sense. Then I started remembering faces, voices. It was terrifying and wonderful at the same time." "And you chose not to come back," Michael said, unable to hide the bitterness. "I tried," Jennifer protested. "I came to New York City so many times. I spent whole nights sitting across the street from our house, watching you through the windows. I saw you helping Emma with her homework, saw you watching TV together, saw you reading her bedtime stories." "Then why didn't you come talk to us?" "Because you seemed happy," she said simply. "You looked like a complete family." Emma was smiling. "You seem to have moved on. I thought my coming back would only mess everything up." "You were wrong," Michael said firmly. "We were never complete without you. I may have learned to function, to be both father and mother to Emma, but that doesn't mean we were happy, it means we were surviving." "Daddy, can Mommy come with us to get ice cream?" Emma came running up, interrupting the conversation again. Michael hesitated. Every moment they spent together, every request from Emma, made everything more complicated. The little girl was visibly happy to have both parents together, and he didn't want to shatter that illusion. But he also couldn't pretend everything was fine. "Of course, sweetheart," he finally said. "Let's go get ice cream." They went to a nearby ice cream parlor, and Emma picked a triple scoop cone, chattering excitedly about her favorite flavors. Jennifer listened carefully, asking questions about their daughter's preferences, trying to catch up on 2 years of lost time. "Mommy, do you like chocolate ice cream?" Emma asked. "I love it," Jennifer replied. "It was my favorite when I was little, just like you." "Mine too," Emma clapped her hands. "We're the same." "Yes, we are," Jennifer smiled, but Michael could see tears forming in her eyes. After ice cream, they walked back down Broadway toward the spot where they'd met. The afternoon was ending, and Michael knew he'd soon have to decide what to do next. "Emma needs to go home," he finally said. "Tomorrow's a school day." "I know," Jennifer answered, "and I need to get back to where I'm staying." "Where are you staying?" Michael asked. "At a hostel downtown," she admitted, lowering her eyes. "It's not very comfortable, but it's a roof over my head." "Mommy, can't you come home with us?" Emma asked, holding each of her parents' hands. "I have so many toys to show you, and my room is all tidy." Michael felt his heart tighten. How could he explain to a child that life wasn't as simple as she imagined? "Emma, Mommy needs some time to get things in order," he said carefully. "But we'll see each other again soon, okay? Promise?" Emma looked at Jennifer. "I promise." "Sweetheart," Jennifer replied, bending down to hug her daughter. "Mommy promises she won't disappear again." "Jennifer," Michael got her attention, "we need to talk more, just the two of us, without Emma here." "I know," she agreed. "Whenever you're ready." "Tomorrow night, after Emma's asleep," he suggested. "Where?" Michael hesitated. Inviting her home seemed too soon, but meeting in public meant they couldn't have the honest conversation they needed. "At our place," he finally said. "I'll ask Mrs. Wilson to watch Emma." Mrs. Wilson was the elderly neighbor who occasionally babysat when Michael had work commitments or evening meetings. "Okay," Jennifer agreed. "What time?" 8 o'clock. They said goodbye right there, on the street. Emma hugged Jennifer tightly, making her promise once more that they'd see each other again. Jennifer kissed her daughter's forehead and whispered something in her ear that made the little girl smile. On the way home, Emma couldn't stop talking about seeing her mother again. "Daddy, is Mommy coming home to stay forever now?" she asked as they rode the elevator up to their apartment. "I don't know, sweetheart," Michael answered honestly. "It's complicated." "Why is it complicated?" Emma pressed. "I want her to come back. I love Mommy. I know you do, and she loves you very much too. But sometimes, even when people love each other, they need to work things out before they can live together again." What kind of things? How could he explain to a 5-year-old that her mother had chosen to stay away for months, even after regaining her memory? How could he explain that her father didn't know if he could ever trust her mother again? "Adult problems," he said simply. "Things you don't need to worry about right now." That night, after Emma went to sleep, Michael Thompson sat in his favorite armchair looking at the wedding photo he still kept on the living room shelf. There were other pictures of Jennifer scattered around the house. Some he had kept to preserve her memory for Emma, others he hadn't been able to part with. Staring at those images, he tried to reconcile the woman he had loved with the person he'd met that afternoon. Jennifer looked the same physically, but there was something different in her eyes, a hardness that hadn't been there before, a caution that didn't exist in the woman he'd married. The phone rang, interrupting his thoughts. It was his younger brother, Kevin, who lived in Los Angeles. "Hi, Kevin," Michael answered. "Hey, man, how was the weekend with Emma?" Kevin always called on Sundays to check in. He had been a huge support during the first few months after Jennifer's disappearance, even offering to move to New York City to help with Emma. "Kevin, I need to tell you something," Michael said, still processing the day's events. "Jennifer, she's alive." Silence on the other end. "What do you mean she's alive?" Kevin finally asked. Michael told him the whole story, the chance encounter on the street, Jennifer's explanation about amnesia, the fact that she'd regained her memory months ago but hadn't reached out. "Man, that's unbelievable," Kevin said. When Michael finished, "How are you feeling?" "Confused, angry, relieved, scared, all at once," Michael admitted. "And Emma, she's over the moon. For her, it's simple. Mommy's back and now they can be a family again. But for you, it's not that simple." "It's not," Michael confirmed. "Kevin, I spent 2 years learning to live without her. 2 years building a new life for me and Emma. And now she shows up and expects—" "What exactly?" "That I just pretend nothing happened." "What did she say about the two of you getting back together?" "She said she wants to be part of our lives again, but understands things have changed, whatever that means." "And you? What do you want?" That was the question Michael had been avoiding asking himself since the moment he saw Jennifer on the street. "I don't know," he admitted. "Part of me still loves her, Kevin. Part of me never stopped loving her. But another part is furious. How could she make the decision to stay away on her own? How could she let me suffer when she was alive and aware?" "Are you going to see her again?" "Tomorrow night, to talk without Emma there." "Be careful, man," Kevin advised. "Don't make any rash decisions, not one way or the other. This is too big to figure out quickly." After hanging up, Michael went to check on Emma, who was fast asleep, hugging a stuffed bear Jennifer had given her for her 2nd birthday. The little girl was smiling in her sleep, probably dreaming about her mother. On Monday morning, Emma woke up talking about Jennifer. "Daddy, can I tell Mrs. Sarah that Mommy's back?" she asked over breakfast. "Emma, let's wait a little before telling people, okay?" Michael said carefully. "Mommy and Daddy are still talking about some important things." "But why can't I tell? I'm so happy." "Because sometimes adults need to make sure things will work out before they tell everyone," he explained. "It's like when you're putting together a puzzle. You don't show it to anyone until you're sure all the pieces are in the right place." Emma pouted but agreed. At school, she was visibly excited, and the teacher mentioned to Michael during pickup that Emma had been especially happy that day. "Did she say anything about her mother?" the teacher asked delicately. Teacher Sarah knew about Emma's family situation and had always been very understanding and careful when handling the subject. "We are going through some changes at home," Michael said vaguely. "I just ask for patience if she seems a little confused or emotional in the coming days." During the day at work, Michael could barely focus. He was a partner at a business consulting firm he had founded with 2 college friends, and he usually could immerse himself completely in projects. But that day his mind kept drifting back to the conversation he would have with Jennifer that evening. Around 5 in the afternoon, his phone rang. It was a number he didn't recognize. "Michael." Jennifer's voice sounded hesitant on the other end. "Jennifer, how did you get my number?" "It's in the phone book. I just wanted to confirm if we're still meeting tonight." "We are," he confirmed. 8 o'clock as agreed." "Michael, I want you to know, I'll understand if you decide you don't want me to be part of your lives," she said quickly, as if rehearsed. "I know I've caused a lot of pain, and if you think it's better for Emma that I stay away, I'll respect that." "Jennifer, we'll talk about this in person," Michael said, "not over the phone." "I know, it's just, I couldn't stop thinking about the look on your face yesterday. You were so hurt, so angry, and I completely understand." "See you at 8, he said, and hung up. The rest of the day dragged on. Michael picked up Emma from school and they went to dinner at a restaurant near home. He wasn't in the mood to cook. During dinner, Emma chatted about her day at school but kept circling back to the topic of her mother. "Daddy, when Mommy comes home, will she sleep in your room or have her own room?" Emma asked while eating her fries. "Why do you ask, sweetheart?" "Because Lily in my class said when her parents fought, her dad slept on the couch for a long time before they became friends again." Michael felt a tightness in his chest. His daughter's innocence made everything more complicated. "Mommy and Daddy didn't fight, Emma," he said carefully. "We just need to talk about some important things before we decide how our family will be from now on." "But we are a family, right? Mommy, Daddy, and me?" "Yes, we're a family," Michael confirmed, because he knew that was true, no matter how things turned out. "We're just figuring out how our family will work now." At 7:30, Michael took Emma to Mrs. Wilson's apartment next door. The 70-year-old woman adored the little girl and always offered to watch her when needed. "Will you be long, dear?" Mrs. Wilson asked. "I don't know," Michael admitted. "Maybe a few hours." "Don't worry. Emma can even sleep here if it's too late." At 8 o'clock sharp, the doorbell rang. Michael took a deep breath before opening the door. Jennifer stood in the hallway, wearing the same simple clothes as the day before, but she had tried to fix her hair and was carrying a small bag. "Hi," she said softly. "Hi. Come in." She stepped inside slowly, looking around the living room, with a pained expression of nostalgia. Everything was practically the same as she had left it 2 years ago. Michael hadn't had the heart to change much. "You kept everything the same," she remarked, gently touching the back of the sofa where she used to sit to watch TV. "For Emma," Michael explained. "I wanted her to feel like you were still part of the house, even if you weren't here." Jennifer nodded, clearly emotional. She turned to him, and Michael could see tears in her eyes. Can I see Emma's room?" she asked. Michael hesitated for a moment, then gestured for her to follow. They walked down the hallway to the little girl's room, which was as tidy as ever. Toys neatly arranged, bed made, colorful drawings pinned to the wall. Jennifer stepped in slowly, touching things gently, as if they were too fragile to bear her presence. "She has so many new toys," she said, eyeing a dollhouse that hadn't been there 2 years ago. "I tried to make up for your absence with gifts," Michael admitted. "Not that it really worked." Jennifer bent down to pick up a small stuffed elephant from the bed. "This was her favorite when she was a baby," she said, hugging the toy to her chest. "I remember when we bought it at the mall. She couldn't have been more than a year old. She still sleeps with it every night," Michael told her. "Even now, at 5 years old? Especially when she's sad or scared. She says the elephant protects her and that you sent it to watch over her." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, back to the story. Michael's words made Jennifer break down in tears. She sat on Emma's little bed, still clutching the elephant, and cried as she hadn't cried in a long time. "I've missed so much," she whispered between sobs. "So much time with her, so many important moments." Michael sat beside her on the bed, keeping a respectful distance but offering his presence. "The first day of school," Jennifer went on. "Her birthday. The new words she learned. I missed everything." "She asked about you," Michael said softly, "especially in the first few months. She didn't understand why you weren't coming home." "What did you tell her?" "I made up stories. Said you were taking care of other babies who needed a mum, and that one day you'd come back. Then when it was clear you weren't coming back, I told her you were very sick and had to go to a special place where you could get better." "And she believed that?" "Children believe what they need to believe to survive," Michael replied. "But as she got older, she started questioning. Lately, she's been asking if you were really ever coming back." Jennifer wiped her tears and looked at Michael. "What did you say when she asked that?" "I told her I didn't know, but that if you could come back, you would. Because mothers who love their children always try to come home." "And now I'm back," she said softly. "But maybe it's too late." "For Emma, it would never be too late," Michael said. "She loves you unconditionally. The question is whether it's too late for us." They left the room and returned to the living room. Jennifer sat on the couch and Michael settled into the armchair across from her. The physical distance between them seemed to mirror the emotional gap they needed to bridge. "Would you like something to drink?" Michael offered, more out of politeness than genuine hospitality. "A glass of water, please." He went to the kitchen and returned with 2 glasses of water. When he sat back down, silence stretched between them, heavy and uncomfortable. "So," Michael finally said, "let's talk." "Where do you want to start?" Jennifer asked. "From the beginning. Tell me exactly what happened since the day of the accident, and this time I want every detail, not the shortened version you gave me yesterday." Jennifer took a deep breath and began again, this time with much more detail. She described the moment of the accident, waking up confused in the hospital, the months in the psychiatric facility, the slow return of her memory. "When I started remembering you and Emma, at first it was just flashes," she explained. "Scattered. Images that made no sense, your face but with no context. Emma's laugh, but I didn't know whose it was. When did you realize you had a family?" "It was gradual. First I remembered our wedding, then Emma as a baby. But it was only about 8 months ago that everything came back completely. Our address, your friends, where you worked. And why didn't you come straight home when you remembered?" Jennifer lowered her eyes. "Because I was scared. And because when I saw you for the first time, hiding across the street, I realized maybe it was better to leave things as they were." "What do you mean you saw us?" "I came to our street several times. I'd hide behind trees or parked cars just watching. I saw you leaving for work in the morning, taking Emma to school. I saw you coming back in the afternoon, saw the lights in the house turn on at night." The revelation that Jennifer had secretly observed them for months left Michael unsettled. "How long did you do that?" "About 3 months. I came at least once a week. And not once did you think to knock on the door and say you were alive." "I did. Many times I even made it to the building's door, but I always ended up backing out." "Why?" Jennifer looked up to meet his eyes. "Because you all seemed happy. Because Emma was smiling, growing up healthy and joyful. Because you seemed to be managing fine on your own. And because I am a mess, Michael." "What do you mean, a mess?" "Look at me," she said, gesturing to her simple, worn-out clothes. "I don't have a home, no steady job, no money. I survive by collecting recyclables and doing odd jobs. What kind of mother would I be now? What kind of wife?" "The kind who's alive," Michael replied. "The kind who can be present in her daughter's life. Money and a home, we can figure that out, Jennifer. What we can't get back is lost time." "But what if I couldn't adjust? What if my memory failed again? What if I had a breakdown and disappeared once more? Emma already suffered once from my absence. I didn't want her to go through that again." "So you decided she'd live with that absence permanently?" Michael asked, his voice beginning to show irritation again. "You decided it was better for her to think her mother was never coming back, instead of risking that you might disappear again?" "I know it sounds crazy now," Jennifer admitted, "but at the time it made sense to me. I was so afraid of hurting you all over again." "But you did hurt us," Michael said firmly. "You hurt us every single day. For the past 6 months, every time you chose not to come home." Jennifer began to cry again. I know I made a terrible mistake. But Michael, I swear everything I did was for you. I wanted you to be happy." "We weren't happy." Michael stood up, his voice rising. "We were surviving. There's a huge difference between the two. But at Emma's school, people said you were doing fine. That you were a devoted father, that she was well adjusted." "Wait," Michael interrupted her. "You talked to people at Emma's school?" Jennifer seemed to realize she'd revealed more than she intended. "Not exactly talked. I sometimes passed by at pickup time just to see her, and I overheard the other moms talking." "You were stalking our daughter?" Michael's voice was filled with disbelief and anger. "Not stalking, just wanting to see if she was okay. Just needing to know you were managing without me." "Jennifer, this is sick. You were spying on us for months." "I know it seems wrong," she said quickly, "but I needed to know. I needed to see with my own eyes that you were okay." Michael started pacing back and forth across the room, running his hands through his hair in frustration. How many times did you go to the school?" "I don't know, a few times, maybe once a month." "Did Emma see you? Did she ever see you?" "No, I always hid. She never knew I was there." "And you thought that was okay? You thought that was healthy?" "I wasn't thinking about whether it was healthy or not," Jennifer replied, her voice defensive. "I was thinking that I missed her, that I wanted to see my daughter even if from a distance." "Then why didn't you come talk to us? If you missed us so much, if you wanted to see us so badly, why didn't you knock on our door and say you were alive? Because when I saw you, you looked like a complete family. You seemed to be doing fine, and I was afraid of messing that up." "We weren't a complete family," Michael exclaimed. "A complete family includes the mother. Emma cried asking for you at least once a week." "She cried?" Jennifer asked her, voice breaking. "Of course she cried. She's a 5-year-old who lost her mother. Did you think she'd just forget and move on?" "I thought with time doesn't fix this," Michael interrupted. "Children don't forget their mothers, Jennifer. They might learn to live without them, but they never forget." The silence that followed was heavy and painful. Jennifer was crying quietly, and Michael tried to control his anger and frustration. "I made a mistake," she finally said, "a terrible one. But Michael, I didn't know what to do. I was confused, scared, and I made the wrong choice." "You made the wrong choice over and over," he corrected. "It wasn't just one mistake, it was a choice you made every day for 6 months." "You're right," she admitted, "and I'll have to live with that for the rest of my life. But the question now is, what do we do from here?" Michael stopped pacing and looked at her. "I don't know, honestly, I don't." "Do you want me to leave?" Jennifer asked softly. "Do you want me to disappear again and leave you in peace?" "It's not about what I want," Michael replied. "It's about what's best for Emma, and frankly, I don't even know what's best for her anymore." She seemed happy yesterday when she saw us together. "Of course she did. She's a child. To her, you came back, and now everything will go back to normal. She doesn't understand things are more complicated than that." "But maybe they don't have to be so complicated," Jennifer suggested hesitantly. "Maybe we can try to start over." "Start over," Michael repeated. "Jennifer, you can't just restart a life. You can't pretend the last 2 years didn't happen." "I'm not saying we should pretend. I'm saying maybe we can build something new from what's left of what we had." "And what's left?" Jennifer looked him in the eyes. "Love. There's still love between us, Michael. I know there is." Michael felt his resolve waver for a moment. It was true. Part of him still loved Jennifer deeply. But would love be enough to overcome the betrayal he felt? The feeling that she had chosen to abandon them again, even after regaining her memory. "Love isn't enough," he said finally. "Love without trust isn't a relationship. It's just nostalgia." "Then give me a chance to earn your trust back," Jennifer pleaded. "Let me prove I can be the mother Emma deserves, the wife you deserve." "How?" Michael asked. "How will you prove that?" "I don't know yet, but I'll figure it out. I'll do whatever it takes." "Whatever?" he asked, skepticism in his voice. "Anything." Michael sat down again, feeling exhausted. The conversation was proving harder than he'd imagined. "Jennifer, I need time to think. It's too much to process at once." "How much time do you need?" "I don't know. Maybe a few days. Maybe a few weeks. And in the meantime, what do I tell Emma?" "The truth. That adults need time to sort out complicated problems." "What if she asks if you'll let me come home?" "I'll say we're still figuring it out." Jennifer nodded sadly. "And where do I stay while you decide?" "Where you've been staying. The hostel." "Michael," she said softly, "I know you're angry, and you have every right to be. But could you at least let me see Emma a few times while you think? I promise I won't pressure you about us being a family again. I just want to spend time with my daughter." Michael considered the request. On one hand, Emma had been visibly happy to see her mother again. On the other, giving her hope that Jennifer would be around regularly might be cruel if he decided it. Was better she wasn't part of their lives. "Weekends," he finally said. "Saturday afternoons, 2 hours at the park or somewhere public. But Jennifer, if you miss even once, if you don't show up when we agree, it's over. I won't let you disappoint her again. I understand, and I promise I won't miss it. And no making plans with her, no promising things you might not keep. You'll make it clear everything's temporary while we figure things out." "Okay." Michael stood, signaling the conversation was over. "I'll pick up Emma from Mrs. Wilson. Can I say goodnight to her?" Michael hesitated, then nodded. They went next door where Mrs. Wilson was watching TV while Emma slept on the living room couch. "How did it go?" Mrs. Wilson asked quietly. "Complicated," Michael admitted. "But we're working on it." Jennifer knelt beside the couch where Emma slept and gently brushed a few strands of hair from the girl's face. "Good night, my princess," she whispered. "Mommy loves you so much." Emma stirred slightly in her sleep but didn't wake. Jennifer kissed her softly on the forehead before standing. "Saturday at 2, Michael said as they stepped back into the hallway. "Saturday at 2, she confirmed. "Michael, thank you for giving me this chance." He just nodded, not trusting his voice to reply. Jennifer stepped into the elevator and gave a timid wave before the doors closed. Michael stood in the hallway for several minutes, trying to process everything that had happened. Then he went back to get Emma, who had woken up and was asking where Mommy was. "Mommy went back to her place, princess," he explained, "but she'll see you on Saturday." "Promise?" "I promise." For the rest of the week, Michael could barely focus at work. His mind kept circling back to the situation with Jennifer and the decisions he'd have to make. He talked at length with Kevin, who flew in from Los Angeles to New York City on Thursday to support his brother. "Dude, are you sure she actually had amnesia?" Kevin asked as they had coffee near Michael's office. "The hospital doctors confirmed it. I called them," Michael explained. "She really was hospitalized, really did lose her memory. But the fact she stayed hidden after remembering, that's sketchy, man." "I know, that's what's killing me. If she'd come home as soon as she remembered, I think I could have forgiven everything. But knowing she chose to stay away..." "How's Emma handling it?" "Confused. She's happy because her mother is back, but she's also noticing something isn't right between us. Yesterday she asked why Mommy can't sleep at home." "What did you say?" "That sometimes people need time to work things out." She didn't like that answer. On Friday night, Michael was putting Emma to bed when she asked a question that caught him off guard. "Daddy, don't you want Mommy to live with us anymore?" she asked, hugging her stuffed elephant. "Why are you asking that, sweetheart?" "Because you look sad when you talk about Mommy, and because she hasn't come home yet." Michael sat on the bed beside his daughter. "Emma, remember when you and Lily had that fight at school and you didn't talk for a few days?" "I remember. And remember how you had to talk a lot and apologize to each other before you could be friends again?" "I remember. Sometimes grown-ups need to work things out between them before they can live together again. It doesn't mean they don't love each other. It just means they need to make sure they won't fight anymore." "But did you and Mommy fight?" "Not exactly. But some things happened that hurt us, and now we need to talk and sort out those feelings. And after that, can she come home?" "Maybe, sweetheart. But I can't promise. Sometimes grown-ups find it's better to live apart, even if they still love each other." Emma was quiet for a moment, taking it all in. "But even if she doesn't live here, she'll still be my mommy, right?" "Yes," Michael answered firmly. "She'll always be your mommy, no matter where she lives." "And can I see her?" "Yes, you'll see her tomorrow at the park." "Okay," Emma said, sounding a little calmer. "Daddy?" "Yes?" "Do you still love Mommy?" The direct question from his 5-year-old left Michael speechless for a moment. It's complicated, Emma. Sometimes grown-ups have complicated feelings. But do you love her, yes or no?" "Part of me does," he finally admitted, "but part of me is hurt and confused." "Then you have to decide which part is bigger," Emma said with the simple wisdom of children. On Saturday, Michael took Emma to Central Park right at 2 o'clock. Jennifer was already there, sitting on a bench near the playground, holding a small backpack. Emma ran to her as soon as she saw her. "Mommy, you came!" "Of course I did, sweetheart." Jennifer hugged her. "I promised I would." "I wrote some snacks for you," she said, showing the backpack to Michael. "Sandwiches and juice." "Thank you," he replied formally. "I'll be over there." He pointed to a bench some distance away. "At 4, we're leaving." "Okay." Michael walked away and watched Jennifer and Emma interact. The little girl showed her mother how she'd learned to balance on the seesaw, how she could climb the tree, how she could tie her shoes. Jennifer paid attention to everything. asked questions, praised her daughter's achievements. To an outsider, they looked like a normal mother and daughter spending an afternoon at the park. But Michael could see the sadness in Jennifer's eyes every time Emma mentioned something that had happened during the 2 years she'd been gone. "And Daddy taught me to ride a bike," Emma said excitedly. "At first I fell a lot, but now I can ride by myself." "That's wonderful," Jennifer replied. "I'd love to see you ride. Can we come here one day and I'll bring my bike to show you?" Jennifer hesitated, remembering Michael's warning about not making promises. "We'll see, sweetheart. Maybe we can arrange that with Daddy." At 4 o'clock, Michael walked over to them. "Time to go, Emma." "Already?" The little girl pouted. "It went by so fast." "I know, sweetheart, but we agreed on 2 hours," Michael said gently. Emma turned to Jennifer. "Will I see you again next week?" "Yes, if Daddy says yes, then sure," Jennifer replied, looking at Michael. "Same time next Saturday," he confirmed. "Bye, Mommy." Emma hugged Jennifer. "I love you." "I love you too, my princess," Jennifer answered, her voice trembling. "More than anything in the world." On the way home, Emma was visibly happy. "Mommy seems different," she remarked. "Different how?" Michael asked. "Sadder, but she's still Mommy." His daughter's observation surprised Michael. Even at 5 years old, Emma could sense the changes in Jennifer that 2 years of hardship had caused. The following week, the routine repeated. Saturday in the park, 2 hours, Michael watching from a distance. This time, Jennifer brought paper and crayons, and she and Emma spent the afternoon drawing. "Look what I drew, Daddy," Emma ran to Michael at the end of their time, holding up a picture. "It's our family." The drawing showed 3 stick figures holding hands in front of a house. Everyone was smiling. "It's beautiful, sweetheart," Michael said, but he couldn't help noticing that the picture made them look like a happy, united family, something far from their current reality. After 3 Saturdays of park meetings, Jennifer asked to talk to Michael again. "Have you thought about our situation?" she asked when they met at a cafe near his place after Emma went to bed. "I've thought a lot," Michael admitted, "but I haven't reached a decision yet." "What do you need to decide?" "I need to understand some things. I need to be sure you won't disappear again." "How can I give you that certainty?" "I don't know. Maybe start by telling me where you're really living, how you're getting by, how you plan to rebuild your life." Jennifer took a deep breath. "I'm staying at a shelter downtown. It's not a nice place, but it has a roof and a bed. During the day, I collect recyclables, cans, bottles, cardboard. I sell them to a warehouse." "How much do you make?" "Not much. Enough to pay for the shelter and food. There's almost nothing left." "And you plan to keep doing this indefinitely?" "No, I've been trying to find other jobs, but it's hard. I don't have updated documents, no recent work history, no permanent address." "What kind of jobs have you looked for?" "Anything. Cleaning, kitchen work, sales. But people ask a lot of questions about where I've been the last 2 years, and when I tell them, they get uneasy." Michael considered this. It was true, Jennifer's situation would make finding steady work difficult. "Jennifer, if I decide you can be part of our lives again, I need to know you're stable. I can't let Emma get attached if there's a chance you might have to leave because you can't support yourself. I understand, and you're right to worry about that. So what's your plan? How will you fix your situation?" I was hoping maybe you could help. Not financially," she added quickly, "but maybe give me a reference for work or let me use your address temporarily while I look for a job. And if I say no? If I decide it's best for all of us if you stay away?" The question clearly stung, but Jennifer tried to stay composed. "Then I'll accept your decision. I'll walk away and let you live in peace. Even if it means to never seeing Emma again. If that's what you think is best for her, then yes." The answer surprised Michael. He had expected her to fight harder, to insist on her rights as a mother. "Why would you accept this so easily?" "Because I've already caused enough pain. If my presence will bring more problems than joy, then maybe it's better for me to step away." "Do you really believe that, or are you just saying what you think I want to hear?" Jennifer looked him straight in the eyes. "I believe Emma's well-being is more important than my need to be close to her. If you decide it's better for her to grow up without me, I'll respect that, even if it kills me inside." The sincerity in her voice touched Michael. For the first time since their reunion, he felt Jennifer was being completely honest about her motives. "But would you rather try to be part of our lives again?" "More than anything in the world," she replied immediately. "But not at any cost, not if it's harmful to you." Michael stayed silent for a few minutes, reflecting on everything he'd heard. "Jennifer, I'll make you an offer, but I want you to understand it's conditional and temporary." "What do you mean?" "I'll help. You get settled. I'll give you references for work, let you use our address temporarily, maybe even lend you money to rent a small apartment." "Michael, let me finish," he interrupted. "In return, you'll go to therapy. I'll pay for you to see a psychologist to work through the trauma from the accident and the issues that kept you away even after regaining your memory." "Okay. And during this time, you can see Emma once a week, but we won't live together as a family until I'm sure you're truly stable and committed to staying in our lives." "For how long?" 6 months. We'll see how things progress. If after that time you have a job, are attending therapy regularly, and Emma is adjusting, well, to your presence, we can talk about you living together again. And if after 6 months you decide you're still not ready, then we reevaluate. Maybe another 6 months, maybe a different arrangement. I can't promise we'll be husband and wife again, Jennifer, but I can promise I'll give you a real chance to be Emma's mother again." Jennifer was clearly emotional. This is more than I expected, far more than I deserve." "It's not about what you deserve. It's about what's best for Emma. And despite everything, I still believe it's best for her to have a mother in her life." "When do you want to start?" "Tomorrow. I'll start making calls to see if I can find work opportunities for you. And I want you to see the psychologist next week." "How do I explain this to Emma?" "We'll tell her the truth, that Mommy is taking time to get things in order and improve herself to be the best mom she can be, and during this time, you'll see each other regularly to get to know one another again. And if she asks when I'm coming home, we'll say we don't know yet, but we're working toward it in the best way possible." That night, Michael told Emma about the plan. "So Mommy will get a job?" Emma asked. "We hope so, sweetheart." "And then she can come home?" "Maybe. We'll see how things go." "Can I help Mommy look for a job?" The innocent question made Michael smile for the first time in weeks. "I think you can help by being a good girl and showing her how much you've grown and learned. That'll make her very proud." On Monday, Michael started making calls. He talked to acquaintances who owned businesses, briefly explained the situation, and managed to arrange a few job interviews for Jennifer. He also scheduled an appointment with a psychologist a friend had recommended. When he called Jennifer to share the news, she was visibly emotional. "Michael, I don't know how to thank you." "You thank me by giving it your all to make this work," he replied. "Jennifer, I want you to understand one thing. This is probably the only chance you'll get. If you waste this opportunity, if you don't fully commit, there won't be a third chance." "I understand, and I promise I won't waste it." "I hope not." Jennifer's first job interview was at an outsourced cleaning company. The job wasn't glamorous, cleaning offices overnight, but it paid a fixed salary and offered benefits. Michael accompanied Jennifer to the company but waited outside during the interview. When she came out, she was smiling. "I got it," she said, almost in disbelief. "They hired me. I start next week." "Congratulations," Michael said, feeling a mix of relief and pride. "The pay isn't much, but it's enough for me to rent a small room and support myself." "It's a start." That night, when they told Emma about Jennifer's job, the little girl was thrilled. "Now Mommy will have money to buy things," she said excitedly. "Yes, and she'll be able to rent her own little place," Michael explained. "But why does she need her own place? Why can't she live here?" "Because sometimes adults need their own space while they learn to live together again," he tried to explain in a way the child would understand. "But I want her to live here." "I know, sweetheart, and maybe one day she can. But for now, this is better." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. In the following weeks, life settled into a new routine. Jennifer worked at night and slept part of the day. In the afternoons, she looked for apartments to rent and prepared for her therapy sessions. On Saturdays, she still spent 2 hours with Emma in the park, but now she also took her to see the apartment she was considering. "This one has a really big window," Emma remarked at each place they visited. "And there's room for a table where you can draw with me." Jennifer always agreed with her daughter's comments, even when the apartment was clearly unsuitable. Emma's opinion had become important to her. After 3 weeks of searching, Jennifer found a small one-bedroom apartment in a lower middle-class neighborhood, about 20 minutes from Michael and Emma's house. It wasn't luxurious, but it was clean, safe, and within her budget. "Can I see it?" Emma asked when Jennifer told her about the apartment. "If your dad says yes, you can come visit me after I move," Jennifer replied. "Daddy, can I?" Emma pleaded. "We'll see," Michael said, though he was inclined to allow it. Seeing Jennifer genuinely trying to rebuild her life was slowly softening his resistance. The therapy sessions were also making progress. The psychologist, Dr. Williams, was helping Jennifer understand the decisions she'd made and develop strategies to cope with the anxiety and fear that had led her to leave her family. "She said it's normal for me to have been afraid to come back," Jennifer told Michael during one of their weekly conversations. That people who go through trauma sometimes develop protective mechanisms that might seem irrational to others. "That helps me understand, but it doesn't erase what happened," Michael replied. "I know. And she also said you have every right to be hurt and to need time to trust me again. At least she's realistic." "Michael, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Have you been talking to anyone about all this? Maybe it wouldn't hurt for you to try therapy too." The suggestion caught Michael off guard. "I hadn't thought about that. It's just, you went through trauma too. You lost your wife, had to raise our daughter alone, and now you're dealing with my return. That's a lot for one person to handle by themselves." Michael considered the idea. It was true. He had struggled to cope alone, especially in the first few months after Jennifer disappeared. "Maybe you're right," he finally admitted. Dr. Williams recommended a colleague who works with families in complicated situations. "If you'd like, I can pass along their contact." A week later, Michael had his first session with Dr. Roberts, a psychologist specializing in family reconstruction. It felt strange at first. He'd never been to therapy before, but gradually, he began opening up about his conflicting emotions toward Jennifer. "It's normal to feel anger and love at the same time," Dr. Roberts explained. "Those feelings aren't mutually exclusive. You can love someone and still be hurt by the choices they made. But how do I know if I should give her a second chance or just move on? There's no simple answer, but one thing I can tell you is that the decision should be based on the present and future, not just the past." "What do you mean?" "The person Jennifer is today, the efforts she's making now, the stability she's building, those matter more for your family's future than the mistakes she made before." "But how do I trust she won't make those same mistakes again?" "You can't have that guarantee, no one can, but you can watch for whether she's learning from her mistakes, developing better ways to handle tough situations, and truly committed to change." 2 months after their reunion, Jennifer moved into her new apartment. Emma was excited to visit her mom's new place. "Can I sleep over?" she asked Michael. "Not yet, sweetheart," he replied. "But you can visit and maybe have dinner there sometimes." The first visit to Jennifer's apartment was a big step. It was small and modestly furnished, but she'd made an effort to make it cozy. She'd bought a used love seat, some plants, and hung Emma's drawings from the past few months on the walls. "Mommy, my drawings are on your wall," Emma exclaimed. "Of course they are. They're the prettiest drawings I've ever seen," Jennifer answered. During the visit, Emma explored every corner of the little apartment, asking where everything went and offering decorating tips. "You need more throw pillows on the couch," she declared, "and colorful curtains on the window." "You're right," Jennifer agreed. "Maybe you can help me pick them out." "Can I?" Emma looked hopefully at Michael. "I think that'd be nice," he said. The afternoon flew by, and when it was time to leave, Emma pouted. "Can I come back tomorrow?" "Not tomorrow, but soon," Jennifer promised. On the way home, Emma was beaming. "Mommy's place is tiny, but it's cute," she said. "And she has her own fridge." The innocent remark made Michael laugh. To Emma, having her own fridge was a sign of independence and grown-up life. 3 months passed. Jennifer was doing well at work. She'd been promoted to shift supervisor, and her boss praised her dedication and punctuality. She was also making progress in therapy, learning to cope with the anxiety that had led her to make such destructive decisions in the past. Emma now visited Jennifer twice a week and occasionally spent the whole afternoon there. The two had developed their own traditions, making pancakes on Saturday mornings, watching cartoons together, doing crafts. Michael watched the relationship between mother and daughter blossom again and couldn't deny that Emma was happier and more whole with Jennifer back in her life. But there was still a barrier between him and Jennifer, a caution he couldn't completely overcome. One day, during one of their weekly conversations, Jennifer addressed the issue directly. "Michael, I feel like you still don't fully trust me. What can I do to change that?" He considered the question for a long moment. "Honestly, time. Just time. I need to see that your stability is lasting, that your changes are real and permanent." "How much time?" "I don't know. Maybe the rest of the 6 months we agreed on, maybe more. And in the meantime, do you think it would be possible for me to spend more time with Emma? Maybe she could sleep over at my place some weekends." Michael hesitated. It was a big step, but Emma had shown she felt safe and happy with Jennifer. "Let's try one weekend first. If it goes well, we can think about making it regular." "Really?" Jennifer couldn't hide her excitement. "But Jennifer, if anything goes wrong, if you can't handle the responsibility, or if Emma gets upset or scared in any way, we go back to the previous arrangement immediately." "Understood, and Michael, thank you. I know it's not easy for you to trust me with her." "It's not," he admitted, "but Emma deserves a real relationship with her mother, not just supervised visits." Emma's first weekend at Jennifer's place was a success. They went to the park, baked cookies together, watched movies, and talked about everything: school, friends, dreams. Emma came home full of stories to tell. "Mommy let me help make dinner," she told Michael, excitedly. "And she has a neighbor's cat that sits in her window. Did you have fun?" "So much. Can I go again next weekend?" "We'll see." But as the weeks passed, Michael began noticing changes in Emma that worried him. She started asking why Mommy and Daddy didn't live together if they liked each other. "The other kids at school have Mommy and Daddy in the same house," she said one night at dinner. "Why can't we be like that?" "Because our family situation is a little different, sweetheart," Michael tried to explain. "But how? You both love me, I love you both. Why can't that be in one house?" Emma's simple child logic made things even more complicated. How do you explain to a 5-year-old that adult relationships were more complex than mutual love? "Emma, remember when we talked about how sometimes adults need to work through problems before they can live together?" "I remember." "Well, Mommy and I are still working through our problems, but it's been so long, can't you fix it faster?" Emma's impatience was understandable, but it also showed that the current arrangement was starting to confuse her rather than help. That night, Michael called Jennifer. "We need to talk about Emma," he said. "What happened? Did she do something?" "No, it's not that. But she's starting to get confused and impatient with our situation. She wants to understand why we don't all live together." "What did you tell her?" "That we're still working through adult problems." But she's tired of that answer. "What do you think we should do?" "I think we need to make a more definite decision about the future. We can't leave Emma in limbo indefinitely." "You're right. And do you already know what decision you want to make?" Michael took a deep breath. "I've been thinking that maybe it's time we try living as a family again." Silence on the other end of the line. "You mean living together?" Jennifer finally asked. "Yes, but with conditions." "What kind of conditions?" "First, you keep going to therapy. Second, we take it slow. Maybe you come over for dinner a few times a week. Spend some weekends here before moving in permanently. And third? Third, we also do couples therapy, because I still have things to work through, and I imagine you do too." Michael, this is more than I expected. It's not for you, he said plainly. It's for Emma. She deserves a stable, united family. And I think despite everything that's happened, we both want what's best for her. What about us, as husband and wife, I mean? That's something we'll have to figure out together. I can't promise it'll go back to how it was before, but I can promise I'll try. That's all I can ask for. When do you want to start? Whenever you're ready. How about dinner here tomorrow, you, me, and Emma, like a family? The next day, Jennifer arrived for dinner carrying ingredients to make Emma's favorite dish, lasagna. It was the first time in over 2 years she'd cooked in the kitchen that used to be hers. Mom, do you remember where the pots are? Emma asked, thrilled to have both parents home at the same time. I do, Jennifer replied, opening the right cabinet without hesitation. Did you move things around? A little, Michael admitted. I had to adjust to cooking alone. During dinner, they talked about everyday things. Jennifer's job, Emma's school, weekend plans. To an outsider, they looked like a normal family having dinner together. Can I tell Mrs. Sarah that you two live with me now? Emma asked. Hopefully. Not yet, sweetheart, Michael answered. Mom doesn't live here yet. She just came for dinner tonight. But can she come for dinner again tomorrow? Maybe not tomorrow, but soon, Jennifer promised. After Emma went to bed, Michael and Jennifer stayed in the living room talking. That was nice, Jennifer remarked. Being here, cooking. In this kitchen, having dinner with you both. It was, Michael agreed. Emma was clearly happy. And you, how did it feel? Michael considered the question honestly. Strange, familiar, but different at the same time. Like wearing an old piece of clothing that doesn't fit the same way anymore. But it wasn't uncomfortable. No, it'll just take time to feel natural again. Time we have, Jennifer said. This time, we have all the time in the world. In the following weeks, Jennifer began spending more time at Michael's house. She came for dinner 2 or 3 times a week, occasionally helped Emma with homework, and sometimes stayed to watch a movie with them in the evening. Emma was visibly happier. Her grades improved, she stopped having nightmares, and she started talking about future plans that included both parents. For my birthday, can I have a party with Mom and Dad together? She asked one day. Of course, Michael and Jennifer answered at the same time, then looked at each other and smiled. They also started couples therapy with Dr. Roberts. The sessions were challenging, often painful, but productive. They began to better understand each other's emotions and develop strategies to handle the lingering distrust and resentment. What matters is that you both want this to work, Dr. Roberts said during one session, and both are willing to do the work needed to rebuild your relationship. Sometimes I feel like I'm walking on eggshells, Michael admitted, afraid to say or do something that might make Jennifer want to run away again. And I feel like I'm constantly trying to prove I've changed, Jennifer added, like one mistake could make everything fall apart. These feelings are normal, Dr. Roberts assured them, but you need to share these anxieties with each other, not keep them to yourselves. 4 months after they started having dinner together regularly, Michael made a proposal. Jennifer, what do you think about moving back home? For good. She looked at him in surprise. Are you sure? No. But I don't think I'll ever be completely sure, and Emma deserves to have both parents at home with her. Besides, I miss you when you're not here. You do? I do. This house just feels like a house again when you leave. When you're here, it becomes a home. Jennifer began to cry. Michael, you have no idea how long I've dreamed of hearing you say that. But I want you to understand we'll still have challenges. There will still be hard moments. And we still need to keep going to therapy, both individually and as a couple. I understand. And I promise no matter how hard it gets, I won't run away again. Never again. How can you be sure? Because now I know what happens when I run. I know the pain it causes. And I'd rather face any problem here with you than try to figure it out alone out there. A week later, Jennifer brought her few belongings back to the house that had once been their family home. Emma was over the moon. Now we're a real family again, she declared, hugging both parents at once. We've always been a family, sweetheart, Michael said. We were just a little scattered for a while. The first few months of living together again weren't easy. There were tense moments, arguments about practical matters and times when old hurts resurfaced. But there were also moments of real happiness, lazy Sunday mornings, family dinners, bedtime stories read by both parents. Emma thrived with the renewed stability. She made new friends at school, joined a dance group, and stopped asking the anxious questions about the family's future that had once been constant. One day, about 6 months after Jennifer moved back, Emma made an observation that deeply touched both parents. "You know what?" she said during dinner. "I think Mommy needed to leave for a while to learn how to be even cooler." "How so?" Jennifer asked. "Because now you play with me more and hug me more and ask more about how I'm feeling. You did it before, but now you do it even more." The child's innocent remark revealed a deeper truth. The experience of almost losing her family had taught Jennifer to cherish every moment, to be more present, to take nothing for granted. "You're right, sweetheart," Jennifer agreed. "Sometimes people need to get a little lost to learn how to find themselves in a better way. But you promise you won't get lost again?" "I promise, never again." 2 years had passed since the reunion on Broadway. The family had found a new balance, different from before, but perhaps stronger. Jennifer had been promoted again at work and was taking night classes in business administration. Michael had expanded his company and was considering writing a book on overcoming business challenges. Emma, now 7, was doing well in school and had developed a passion for drawing that both parents encouraged. On a Saturday afternoon, they were in the same park where they had spent so many afternoons during the family's rebuilding period. "Remember the first time we came here after I came back?" Jennifer asked, watching Emma play on the slide. "How could I forget?" Michael replied. "I was so nervous, so full of anger and confusion, and I was terrified you'd tell me to leave and never come back. Honestly, there were times I thought about doing just that." "What made you change?" "Your mind." Michael thought for a moment. "Emma, seeing her happy again and realizing that despite all the pain you caused, the love I felt for you never really disappeared. It was buried under anger and hurt, but it was there." "I never doubted you loved me," Jennifer said. "I just didn't know if it would be enough to overcome what I'd done." "It almost wasn't. But in the end, love won. Love for you, love for Emma, love for the family we were and could be again." Emma ran over to them, interrupting the conversation. "Did you see how I climbed that rope all by myself?" she asked proudly. "We did," Jennifer replied. "You're getting so strong and brave." "It's because I have the best parents in the world," Emma declared, hugging them both. "And because our family is whole again." As they walked home that afternoon, Michael reflected on the extraordinary journey they'd been through. 2 years ago, he was a widower trying to raise a daughter alone. Today, he was a married man with a united family, stronger than before because of the hardships they'd faced together. Life had taught them that true love wasn't just about happy moments, but the willingness to fight for those moments, even when everything seemed lost. It was about forgiveness, second chances, and the courage to rebuild something new from the ruins of what had been broken. "What are you thinking about?" Jennifer asked, noticing his distant look. "How unpredictable life is," he answered. "How a casual afternoon can change everything. How a child's shout can set off a chain of events that transforms an entire family. Do you regret any of it?" "No," Michael replied after a moment. "Even with all the pain, all the confusion, all the suffering, I don't regret it, because it brought us here. And here is exactly where I want to be." Emma tugged at both parents' hands. "Let's race home," she suggested. "Let's," they agreed in unison. And so they ran through the streets of New York City, 3 people who had found their way back to each other, 3 people who had learned that some stories have happy endings, but only for those brave enough to fight for them. That night after Emma went to sleep, Michael and Jennifer sat on their apartment balcony, watching the city lights. "Do you ever think about the future?" Jennifer asked. "About what's going to happen in the years ahead?" "I do," Michael admitted, "but not in the sense of planning every detail. More in the sense of being excited to find out. For the first time in a long time, the future doesn't scare me. Why? Because now I know that no matter what happens, we'll face it together, and that makes all the difference." Jennifer snuggled against him, and they sat in silence for a while, simply savoring the peace of the moment and the certainty that they had found their way home. "Michael," Thank you. For what? For giving me a second chance, for fighting for our family when I couldn't, for being strong when I was weak. We fought together, he corrected. Maybe not at the same time, but each of us did our part, and that's what matters. The stars began to appear in the night sky of New York City, and they remained there, a family reunited, a love story that had endured the toughest test possible and emerged stronger on the other side. Because sometimes, the best stories are the ones that begin with a break, continue with a hard-fought struggle, and end with the discovery that what was broken can be mended even more beautifully than before. And sometimes, a simple child's cry on a busy street can be the start of a miracle. The end. Now tell us what you thought of this incredible story of overcoming and reunion. Do you think Michael made the right choice by giving Jennifer a second chance? Share your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming stories like this one.